Welcome to our podcast, All Things Cozy. Listen freely of your own will and leave some of the happiness you bring. I'm Bat.
And I'm GIllian.
We're a bi-weekly podcast that, for Halloween, is about everything sharp, dark, and batty. This week we're listening to the Children of the Night, what music they make. That's right, this Halloween we're taking flight with vampires. We'll drain every detail around why we're so transfixed by Transylvanians and take comfort and sometimes canoodle in their cozy coffins. We're also taking a driverless carriage to Count Dracula's screening room, where we'll be hypnotized by 4 cozy vampire films for devilishly different audiences: a kids' film, a comedy, a classic, and a romance. Before we board the Demeter and set sail to a cinema of creature features, let's all go to the lobby and have ourselves a snack we'll be slurping up every last drop of. We've divided our pre-show snacks into 2 different groups, a bite and a drop. GIllian, what's your bite?
Matt, you won't want to put a steak in this recipe. The creation is the perfect blend of sweet and savory and is drop dead good for you to boot. I promise I'm not an almond mom. I was just trying to find things in my fridge that I could whip together easily because, as you know, this is the season of laziness. We're doing a lazy October.
As long as you're not a garlic mom, we'll be okay.
So I got the Mega Utz brand Halloween pretzels from Costco, and I emphasize the Utz because I actually went to the social media manager's page to make sure I was pronouncing it correctly, because I will not be caught mispronouncing anything on the show.
Living in Baltimore for years didn't do the trick, but you finally got it today.
I did a deep dive. But anyway, these are really cute Halloween pretzels. They're pumpkin-shaped and bat-shaped. And then I took my Greek yogurt and cottage cheese, because I'm in a cottage cheese era, which sounds a lot more depressing when I say it out loud. And I have this big tub of cottage cheese. So you could probably just use Greek yogurt, but putting them together creates this rich and savory, tangy combination. And lastly, you'll need a sweetener of your choice. I use agave, but you can use honey or sugar. So it's super simple. The first thing you want to do is blend your strawberries, which will act as the blood sauce. Make sure that you put your sweetener in with the strawberries. Once that's all blended up, put it in a saucepan and just let it simmer for about 5 to 10 minutes. I always overdo things, just like when I botched the New York Times mac and cheese famously on this show because I let it cook too long. I did this here. Since it's supposed to act as your blood, you really want it to be drippy and not thick. So that was my one flub here, is way too thick. So when you dropped it on my cottage cheese and Greek yogurt mixture, I had to take a toothpick and kind of mess around with it so it looked a little bit more funky and spooky.
It was too coagulated.
Yes, yes, the right vampy word for that. Absolutely. So I need to make my strawberry blood more blood-like next time. And for the cottage cheese and Greek yogurt proportions, I recommend 1/2 cup to 1/2 cup. If you're having more people over, you can do a cup or a cup, whatever. It just has to be equal parts. And then, yeah, you just pour that blood right on that mixture. And then I took my bat sheet pretzels, and they're so super cute. And I put them in the bowl, and I use a black bowl for some great contrast. And I put my little bats like they're in a prayer circle or something. And then I put one little bat in the middle. And it's great because the Greek yogurt and cottage cheese is so thick, it really holds up the pretzels in an upright position. So I thought it was really adorable, simple and easy. It tasted pretty good. If you want more sugar, I would recommend upping the 1/2 tablespoon to a full tablespoon. Just depends who you're making it for. I don't prefer things to be too sweet, so this was like a really nice combination. Some sweet, some savory. It was fantastic.
That sounds great, GIllian. And I don't think there's anything sad at all about being in a cottage cheese era. I feel like that's where I am these days as well. So you're in good company.
Yeah, it's the one thing I actually look forward to in the morning, knowing that I could have my cottage cheese with that bagel seasoning.
From
I
Trader
thought I
Joe's.
wouldn't like it. I do, yeah. I really like it. So I'm in my cottage cheese era, and I'll be making a lot of cottage cheese, inspired dishes. So, what did you bite your teeth into? Or no, what did you sip?
Speaking of soft foods, you can't get much softer than a beverage. I have the drop for our dark delicacy tonight, and I hope I'll be positive about this drink. I'm sipping on the Vampiro, which is a Mexican drink that is often referred to as like a Mexican Bloody Mary. And I'm hearing the words bloody, Vampiro, the perfect drink for a vampire themed Halloween get together. And it's a real cocktail. It's not something just phony for a holiday. So I really like the idea that this is something you might actually drink when it's not Halloween. So I wanted to share this one. It seemed exciting. So why is it called a Vampiro? Well, if the reddish hue doesn't give it away, the fact that the key ingredient in this classic Mexican cocktail is sangrita, meaning little blood, should tell you everything you need to know. It's common to drink tequila alternating with sangrita to bring out the tequila's flavor. I didn't know that was something that people did, like that you'd have a little bit of sangrita and you have your tequila shot and you kind of alternate. And it's supposed to like palate cleanse when you're drinking your tequila, as one does. And the sangrita I used is Viuda de Sanchez, and they make their sangrita with chile de árbol, or as Renfield would love to call it in English, rat's tail chili. Some
Hmm.
people make sangrita with tomatoes for that red color, but I really like that this is grounded in a chili base, which makes it extra spicy. And it's a nice mixture of spicy and sweet, but in a light way because it's also citrus based. So it's not nearly as heavy as a Bloody Mary mix, but it is surprisingly flavored as if it were tomato. That really does come through. So here's how you can make it yourself to get a little tipsy in your tomb. I use the recipe posted by, now this is a Reddit username, so it's either Rockin' It New York or it's Rockin' Itney. Who knows?
Rockin' it, New York. I like that.
Yeah, I think it's that. And thank you to that user because they shared this from their grandma who gave them the core of this recipe. And so they dubbed their version of this the Vampiro Abuelita, little grandma Vampiro. So to make this drink, you'll need 2 ounces of tequila. They used reposado, or the oak-aged tequila. That's golden. You add 1.5 ounces of Viuda de Sanchez sangrita, 2 ounces of grapefruit soda, a little bit of lime juice, a little bit of lemon juice. And if you want the exact specifics, they are in the show notes, this entire recipe. A few dashes of Angostura bitters, and 3 dashes of hot sauce. I had Tabasco on hand. And then a little bit of mezcal to float on top. So what you do is you first mix the tequila, the sangrita, the lime and lemon juice, the bitters and the hot sauce in a shaker, and you shake that all up. You pour that over ice in a drink. After actually you rim it. So I use the twang chili lime salt, which adds a little bit of more salty spiciness to the rim. Once you have that drink in there, you add your effervescent grapefruit soda and a float, which I didn't know what a float meant, so I had to look that one up. So when you float a spirit on top of your drink, it's like you pour it over a spoon or something. So it's kind of like, you know how different liquids have different densities, and so it's supposed to kind of sit on top
Oh,
in like a little bit of a layer. I didn't do that because I didn't know what it was at first, so I just kind of splashed it on top just to give a little
sounds like
hint
what I
of
would have
it.
done. Yeah.
There's a float for you. That's how they do it back in Transylvania. Anyway, but what I liked about that was I was looking for vampire drinks that did have mezcal in it specifically because I love how mezcal has that smoky, coppery kind of flavor. And I think there is a little something bloody about that. And it seemed very on brand. And I have to say,
Absolutely.
I loved every drop. The effervescence provided by the bubbly grapefruit soda and the blend of spicy and salty was absolutely delightful. And like I said, I really love the mezcal float. It's my favorite touch in it, especially because it did add that flavor that gives this brew a bloody bite. So, like Dracula coming back to Mina Harper night after night, I'd drain this drink again. But be careful to sip slowly, GIllian. You might need a thrall to help you find your way back to the castle because, wow, I was not prepared for this. Ends up being like 2 shots of tequila a drink plus a little dash of mezcal. And so I was like, whoa, a little discombobulated. If I were flying, I would have been all over the sky.
Yeah, you would have floated right into the window.
Yeah. Don't drink and fly.
Wise words.
I stayed at home and just watched horror movies while I drank on this, and it was a nice vibe.
And your photo of it that you shared with me, which we'll share on our social media pages, was so cute. And you paired it with an adorable beanie baby vampire.
Thank you. Yeah, I was a little concerned because this vampire bear beanie baby, it has like a white tummy. And I was like, oh, if any of this red sangrita gets on this, I'm going to be so sad. But it was worth it for the shot. It was worth it for you all to enjoy.
Yeah, you'll be throwing a fit in your tomb if you got
That's
some
right.
Vampiro on that Beady Baby.
I was surprised, like, even when I was making this, like, the Sangrita, it's one of those liquids that really wants to stain. I really had to scrub my tile on my countertop. It did come out, but just be warned, like, be neat when you're pouring the
Mhm.
Sangrita, or else you might have some pink tile on your counter. You probably have nicer marble countertop where you live, but yeah, I really loved it. Our feeding frenzy is over, and we're engorged with bloody good food. So let's stop vamping, make our way to the pyre, and sink our teeth into a little history. The vampire, a mythological monster who creeps around at night in search of people whose blood they can feed upon. That may feel like pure Hollywood fantasy, but their crypts go way deeper. Long before Bela Lugosi swept onto the silver screen, or Bram began to stoke the embers that would become his epic novel, stories of the undead were keeping villagers up at night across Eastern Europe. In the early 18th century, some people believed in revenants, evil beings who crawled back from the grave to feed on the living. Some of these legends probably started with misunderstandings of basic biology. A bit of blood at the mouth after natural decomposition, a well-preserved body in the frigid winter. To frighten villagers, that sure looked like someone who'd been snacking after taking a little dirt nap. These fears led to real-life vampire hunts, even in the United States, more recently than you'd think. As the History Channel tells the tale, in the late 1800s, Mercy Brown, a resident of Exeter, Rhode Island, was scapegoated for the tuberculosis that killed her and many of her family members, who were all exhumed and examined for signs of vampirism. Since Mercy's body didn't show much decay in, let me see here, her above ground vault during an extremely cold New England winter, she was determined to be a vampire. Her heart was cut out, burned, and the ashes fed to her sick brother in the hope they'd heal him. Spoiler alert, they killed him.
What?
Around the time vampires crept into Gothic fiction, including, of course, Bram Stoker's Dracula, these weren't just monsters, they were elegant, mysterious, and terrifying, sure, but also kind of charming. When Anne Rice took her bite at vampire volumes with titles like Interview with the Vampire, now they didn't just have fangs, they had feelings. Fast forward to Twilight, The Vampire Diaries, and even kid-friendly tales like Hotel Transylvania or The Little Vampire, and this once feared creature of the night is now a romantic hero, a misunderstood friend, or sometimes even a cozy companion who'd rather sip animal blood than hurt a human. Over time, vampires have evolved from monsters hiding in the shadows to icons who reflect our own desires for belonging, love, and a flirtation with the possibility of eternal life. Vampires should be terrifying, and yet they're often the objects of romance and, in some cases, friendship. GIllian, why do you think vampires often have one wing in the world of coziness? Do you find vampires scary or cozy?
I think your well-written and beautiful introduction summed it up. There's so much richness in their backstories. Why are they cursed? Why are we digging people up? There's so much fantasy involved. Like, I'm imagining, where have they been? Who have they met? What's in their closet? 'Cause they always have so many
Very well
cool
dressed.
costumes.
Yeah.
And they can go all over different continents, and who's in their family, who's in the crypt. And so for me as a little kid, and even now today, I'm really interested in all of the complexities that I think vampires bring. And many fellow cozies know that comfort often comes in the form of a good story, even if it's scary. And when I think about other monsters, they're kind of lackluster. Werewolves, it's like, okay, good for you. Frankenstein.
I always think that with
Just
werewolves, good for you. You turn into a beast on the full moon. Big whoop.
big whoop. Frankenstein makes me sad. And then ghosts also make me a little sad too. I can even cry right now thinking about Casper. That backstory, that damn sled. Just, he had to ride that sled and get sick.
It's worse than Rosebud.
So vampires aren't sad to me. They're just cool and they have a story. Let's meet up at a bar and let's talk. What have you been through? So that's why I find them cozy, long story short.
No, you're absolutely right. Like, they aren't tortured. A lot of times, like, the torturedness comes from the eternal life part of it, where maybe initially they thought it'd be a great deal to live forever, but as they go on through time, they actually want to die. They're just like so tired of it. A lot of vampire stories really do center on this idea of, if you could live forever, would that be a good lifestyle? And Vampires showed that it would be pretty awful to see everyone you love die and the world you know and are familiar with, like, fall away as you keep going on. But you're right, aside from some of those drawbacks and the whole having to drink blood and kill people thing, generally, they're kind of just out in the town, they're enjoying the fresh air. They're often not so ghoulish. I mean, we have our Nosferatus here and there, but oftentimes they're depicted as very kind of sexy, well-dressed. They're going around in style. It doesn't feel so sad. They're not, like, clomping around in some ugly boots like Frankenstein.
No, I think they would be the dinner guest you're always hoping comes to your party, minus the murder, like you
Yeah,
said.
exactly. They're so debonair that I have a hard time finding them scary. When I think of, like, the classic creatures of cinema, I do find them more cozy than creepy. That being said, some people are obsessed with vampires. They really are drawn to the allure, and I do get it. I truly do understand it, but I don't have the same interest. And so I passively enjoy vampires. I enjoy watching vampire movies. I don't often read books centering on vampires, but overall, like, I find them very approachable. And I think especially in this day and age, you're more likely to come across a cozier vampire than a really terrifying one, although we did get a good example of a terrifying vampire in the remake of Nosferatu pretty recently. But generally speaking, I feel like we get more Hotel Transylvanias and What We Do in the Shadows kind of style vampires these days.
Yeah, you're right. Vampires really took off, or just it feels like that recently. And people who are into them are so, so, so into them. I don't think I've actively sought out vampire related stuff, but every time I've watched a vampire movie, like we did for this podcast, I really enjoy it.
I do find them more approachable just because I feel like even if you are a scaredy cat, generally speaking, it's more likely you can find a vampire movie that probably is more palatable. I mean, some of them are gory for sure, but a lot of them aren't. They have some very tense scenes, but it's more that you care about the characters and less that you're being jump scared or like gonna see something really grisly.
It's more about mood.
It's more about mood. Thank you. You said it
Yeah.
beautifully. That's exactly what I'm trying to say. Before we dive into the creature features that we lined up for today to take us through a little bit of a buffet of vampire cinema for anyone in your family to enjoy, what are some of your favorite vampires in books, TV shows, movies, or video games, Julian? Like when I say vampires in media, what's your go-to?
Count Chocula. And I'm not trying to be silly.
No, 100%. That's a great choice.
He was so proud of his cereal. I rewatched a lot of commercials in preparation for this, and he has been hitting the cobblestones hard since 1971. Every time they added a new feature to the cereal, like the lightning marshmallows, he was so psyched, and he would always educate the kids who just happened to be in his crypt begging for cereal. He was selling it hard. And I remember distinctly those little marshmallow chocolate bats, and I can see in my mind's eye Count Chocula staring down for me from our cabinet, which was too high for me, and I had to get a chair to get the Count Chocula. We could see it clear as day. It was just a core memory for whatever reason. I think those commercials are so fun, and the cereal was actually good. And it's probably the one cereal other than Reese's Puffs that I would eat pretty consistently.
Yeah, I loved Count Chocula as well. It was great for when you had a sweet fang.
Yes, and those little marshmallows were so adorable. And my second pick, Charles Shaughnessy. Let's hopefully I got that right. I looked it up from Disney's Mom's Got a Date with a Vampire from 2000. And how can you compete with Mr. Sheffield playing a suave yet menacing vamp? And then being paired against sunshiny Caroline Ray was a perfect contrast to boot. And I was looking on Reddit, and a lot of people were like, I'm a millennial. I'll always think of him in this role. No other roles come to mind. I was just thinking, if he read that, I don't know how happy that would make him, but for millennials, this is just a standout role for him, and I
Yeah.
have to agree.
100%. I rewatched that recently and it's a lot of fun. For me, it would be the cast of all the vampires and FX's What We Do in the Shadows. That's a really surprisingly cozy show for as dark as it can get. The humor is a little bawdy. I do find the relationship between all of the vampires in the house to be really cozy. Like they're all so silly and very distinct characters, whether you're Nandor the Relentless, Laszlo Cravensworth, Naja of Antipaxos, and of course the energy vampire, Colin Robinson, who drains you from your energy and reminds you of a lot of coworkers you probably have.
I saw a clip on Instagram Reels where the old people go, not TikTok, and like has a lot of miscommunication humor, that
Yeah.
show, if I have it correct. And I'm sure it's an iconic clip, but where the relentless guy is trying to say his name to a newscaster, and they call him De Laurentiis. Like, that's how they put him on the screen. That really cracked me up.
Yeah, it's a really funny show. I love it. And another TV shout out would be Grandpa Munster. I always found him to be really interesting. Like, you know, in the Munsters, Grandpa is a vampire.
Oh, right.
Yeah, and especially when he would turn into a bat and it would have that really high-pitched squeaky sound as it would fly around. I always found that very funny. But going into literature, my OG favorite vampire has to be, paws down, Bunnicula, a vampire rabbit created by Deborah and James Howe, who drinks the juice of vegetables. And this book by itself got me eating more veggies as a kid. So shout out to those authors. They did it. And I still sometimes try to suck all the juice out of a tomato before eating it like an apple. I learned that if you like bite into a tomato and suck out all the juice, it can kind of shrivel up. And I'm like, ooh, I'm just like Bunnicula. I really liked that as a little kid.
That's so cute. This is a fun fact I didn't know. Maybe you need to make a reel of you.
No one
Sucking
needs
out
to
the
see that.
juice.
Yeah. Just
Give us a
tomato
tutorial.
juice dripping down my chin. Yeah. There's a Halloween scare for you. Bunnicula is such a cute little vampire. A bunny with vampire fangs is too cute.
I've never heard of Bunnicula.
I'm so sorry. You must have had an awful childhood.
I must have. It's been kept from me. Was it a picture book or was it a
There definitely were
chapter book?
lots of pictures. I mean, depending on, there's a lot of books in the series. I think they were written from like the 70s through the 90s at least, because there were like new ones coming out even when I was in school. Yeah, it was definitely a long running series. Let's close the coffin on some of our favorite vampires and go into our cozy vampire movie marathon. This Halloween, we're covering the 4 C's, my own term, to find the fangs on film for different types of audiences. And those C's are classic, children, comedy, and be still our hearts, courtship. I know courtship is clunky, but
I don't think
romance would be
so.
clear, but it would ruin the 4 C's, so we have to do courtship. Will they be fantastic or having us want to drive a stake through the screen? We're going to start with the classic, and this is the first C. This is not only a Halloween episode, it's a vocabulary quiz, and that is Dracula from 1931. And this is available for rent on a lot of platforms. I think I watched it on Amazon Prime for free. If you have an account,
Same.
it's there. Count Dracula, played by the legendary Bela Lugosi, summons a naive real estate agent, Renfield, played by Dwight Fry, and turns him into a bug-binging thrall to trade his cobweb-covered Transylvanian castle for a fixer-upper in England called Carfax Abbey. There, through a lot of intense staring and sinister smiling, Dracula charms his way into polite society and tries to drain it dry faster than you can say, "Thanks for the offer." As Mina, played by Helen Chandler, starts looking a little pale, Professor Van Helsing brings the garlic and steaks for a very old-fashioned intervention. It's the black and white bedtime story that started it all. Slow, shadowy, and nearly silent, actually, because there's not that much music in it. GIllian, did this movie make you want to curl up in a cape surrounded by candlelight?
Well, yes, actually. So ambience of
So funny you would ask.
the ambience of the sets felt very magical and cozy. The fog rising from the ground. There was so much fog everywhere. The click clack of the horse and carriages. The sounds are so accentuated because there's not a lot of background noise. It's just these single sounds coming through. And so each sound really resonates. And I was watching with my dog Canella and cat Snickers. They were sitting side by side. I was flanked by them. And they were staring so intensely at the screen. When there was a lone howl filling the castle, Snickers was just like she was in a trance from Dracula himself. It was wild. They were seated. So every creepy sound was electrified and could be the perfect Halloween ASMR soundtrack. And then I also love the bat puppetry. That really was fun and that got me. So I think the mood, and we talked about the mood earlier, that's a big component of the whole vampire lore. So I think this movie really encapsulated that vibe for me.
Absolutely. I agree that the atmosphere is such a strength. The matte paintings in this film are beautiful. Watching it, it's like watching just a really gorgeously illustrated book. And because of the black and white nature of it, like actually it was in some cases very convincing, like the way that they used those matte paintings to create like a larger scene. I was really impressed by some of that work. And it's all about atmosphere in this movie. There's like a slow feeling of dread that kind of accumulates throughout the course of the film. It doesn't overstay its welcome very much because it's pretty short. So you're only
Mhm.
in there for an hour. And because of how silent it was too, because yeah, you are hearing these like little sound effects or just the dialogue, but there's rarely music. And it actually, I think, adds to the eeriness. Bela Lugosi's performance in particular, I think there's a reason why he's cemented his legacy because of this role. He really does the switch from suave to sinister fascinatingly. His smile is so over the top and creepy. It's kind of funny. People are like, well, he seems kind of like a nice guy, but I'm like, are you looking at the same guy I'm looking at? Like, he looks like
Yeah.
a creep.
Yeah, it's creep.
But then when the smile drops, like he does like really intimidating. He looks like a really mad rich guy. So I really did enjoy his performance a lot. And the one thing that I was really thrilled by was the first time that we're at Dracula's castle, like all the coffins are opening in the crypt. Dracula's wives are coming out, and then Dracula's kind of standing there watching it happen. And then a little cricket comes out of its little coffin. And that was so whimsical. I was
So
blown away.
cute.
I was not expecting there to be like a little cricket coffin. It's like a Jerusalem cricket that comes out of it.
So cute.
It's really cute. They have a bit of a sense of humor here. It's silly too. So it doesn't take itself so seriously, but I mean, most of the time it does. But I liked that moment of whimsy, especially.
Yeah, it's also a good movie to have on in the background, and I mean that
Yes.
as a compliment.
No, I
Like,
agree.
you're just hanging out, it's the background when you're having your Halloween party.
Yeah, carving pumpkins and again, great atmosphere. So you're right. Like, yeah, if you ever were to have a Halloween party, but you have one room where like they're projecting a movie, this is a great choice because there's not much sound or dialogue anyway a lot of the time. So you can really just kind of get what's going on just by the visuals. And there's nothing cozier than watching like a classic horror film on Halloween. I just find that to be such a cozy feeling. All right. Well, our next movie is for the little vampires in your life who are still trying to lose their baby fangs. In fact, this movie is actually called The Little Vampire. It came out in the year 2000, and you can find it on Hoopla for free. It's also available for rent a few other places, although I think I might have had to pay for it. Where did you watch it, Jillian?
I paid for it too. I don't recall. I was searching the littlest vampires of the little vampires, so I couldn't find it at first, and then I just searched it on my TV and I just rented it from came up first.
Yeah, it's 25 years old. It's going to be pretty findable. So, The Little Vampire is all about this American kid named Tony, played by Jonathan Lipnicki, famous from Jerry Maguire, who moves to Scotland and his social life totally sucks until a young vampire named Rudolph crash lands in his bedroom. Fortunately, Rudolph is a quote unquote vegetarian who drinks cow blood. That's not what vegetarianism means. But anyway, and is as loyal as a thrall. Together, they dodge the grumpy vampire hunter Rookery, played by Carson from Downton Abbey, Jim Carter, and the chef from The Witches. Great to see Jim Carter. Was not expecting that. So they're dodging him and they're hunting for an amulet, of course, that has the power to turn Rudolph's family human again. This is a movie with flying cows, cozy castles, and a lot of moonlit mischief, all without a drop of human blood spilled. Jillian, would you hang out on a blimp with these little vampires?
Aside from the rando names, I texted Matt this Tony. I just I'm Tony, I'm the littlest vampire. And then Rudolph, that just hit me now as you were saying it. I don't know. The names are a little off. And no offense to the Tony and Rudolphs out there. It's just odd. But anyway, I love this movie. I'm not ashamed of it. I love Tony's dream bedroom and his dream house. They live in this updated castle. It's a mansion. It's a castle-y mansion.
It's an estate. It's like a nice
An
house. Yeah, it
estate.
has like a lot
That's
of
what I say it.
land. It's a great house.
It'd like be the best hide and seek place ever for a kid. But his bedroom has such a great mood to it. Lots of hues of blue, and there's stars and moon night light, and a lot of the scenes in Tony's bedroom take place at night because we're dealing with vampires. So there's all these really cozy night lights, and the room is just aglow, and there's these big glass windows and the trunk at the end of his bed. And as a kid, that'd be a dream bedroom. So I thought that was super cozy. The other aspect, the villain, Rookery. I think children's movies today are missing real villains. Scare the kids. Kids aren't being scared enough today. Because I think it'd be cozy to be scared of something because the opposite of that is comfort. So the scarier a villain is, the stronger the connection you have with the good guys. And I think as an adult, Rookery might seem like a fool. I mean, he is a fool. But from a kid's perspective, trying to put myself in that mindset, he's really menacing. And not to spoil it too much, but he uses a human as vampire bait. So he tricks this gullible old guy and tries to get the vampires to come out, and the old guy ends up getting bit. And that's really sinister and
Yeah, it
dark.
is.
He has this getup that's just pretty creepy and scary. There's all these chains and leather.
Yeah, he went on a shopping spree at Hot Topic for sure.
Yeah. And he never is goofy. And I think a lot of villains in kids movies today are goofy. They're always like falling down, or I don't know, they're just idiots. And I don't know if Rickery is the brightest bulb at Home Depot, but he is he's just always keeps character, and the kids never really have a true leg up on him until the very end. And there's one other really creepy scene, but I won't mention it, but really
Well, now you
dark
have to
stuff.
mention it.
Okay, so Tony is in a tomb, a coffin. So they're in a family crypt, and Rookery finds Tony snooping on him and the lord of the estate. And so he traps Tony in the tomb, and he's about to close the tomb up. And the Lord says, "Oh no, we have to tell his parents. We can't let this happen because it's straight up murder if
Yeah.
they just leave him in there." And Rookery is just pedal to the metal. No, let's commit murder. And that's really scary.
He's
That
like, I killed a guy last night, so this is fine.
And then the Lord and him just walked out of the crypt, and I was like, okay, I guess the Lord's gonna live with this knowledge that he killed a kid for the rest of his life. Obviously, it didn't happen, but I was like, whoa, this is really a Dateline episode in here. So that was really so it's scary.
You're right. Yeah. I think what also scary about Rookery is that he has all these like sharp, weird implements on his car that he uses to hunt the vampires with, which he has like an Inspector Gadget quality to him where he just has all these different mousetrap style strung together devices that are specifically made to hunt vampires. And I could see a lot of kids being inspired by some of these contraptions
Mhm.
and into like, oh, I think I could build something like that. Or just, I really do miss those kind of flights of fancy practical effects of just like garbage being strapped onto things. I'm like, that's a radar dish. And it's like a colander or something.
Yeah, that's a good point. I didn't think about that because I feel like saying I'm going to say New York City is a character in Sex and the City. Rookery's garbage truck where he's driving is like a character. But Rookery aside, there's a lot of adventure and fantasy, so many cozy scenes of them flying around, and that's just every kid's dream to fly. And so these nighttime scenes over Scotland and seeing them just become friends and flying all around town, trying to find cows, I thought that was really cozy. Minus Rudolph's vampire stink, which was an interesting detail I thought was like add a little bit of richness to the tale because you don't think about that, how vampires must be so stinky.
It makes sense. Like if you think about it, yeah. Like when you eat blood, like it's not gonna necessarily smell great, or like your clothes are ancient.
Yes. Yeah, very stinky. And the last thing I'll say is you're probably trying to get off the cane, get me off the stage because I didn't really like this movie. I think the messaging is super cozy. Because at the end, Tony has to be the one to make the vampire's wish come true, which is that they're not vampires anymore and they can be among the living. And so I think that requires a lot of empathy, not only to make someone else's dream come true, but to understand it because he can only make the wish come true if he really feels it and he wants it for them too. So I think it ends on a nice message. Yeah, it's a zany movie, but this is a 10 out of 10 for me.
Wow, those are strong words. It's interesting because I was a little bit confused on the nature of the menace and the threat from the vampires because they did have actually like quite a bit of menacing qualities to them, especially the brother who's like in a straitjacket. Like they can't control Rudolph's brother can't be controlled pretty much, so they just sort of try their best to keep him away. He's the one that bites the innocent guy. And so these are not actually very safe to be around vampires. Like they might claim that they're vegetarian. And then even when Jonathan Lipnicki is discovered by the family, the father's like, well, I guess I have to eat you. I guess you're going to be lunch or whatever.
Mhm.
And Rudolph manages to save the day. And the mother is a little bit more understanding, but like the dad and the crazy older brother, they're very ready to kill people. It makes me feel like Rookery kind of has a point. I'm not totally not on
Fair.
Rookery's side. They kind of are a threat to human lives. It's just that Rookery is also a threat to human lives because he's willing to sacrifice people in order to hunt the vampires. So everyone's bad. I agree with you that the coziness of the film is undeniable. From the set design, yeah, like the estates that we're in, the cozy bedrooms, just Jonathan Lipnicki being adorable. You know, you could see
So
how
cute.
he won everyone's heart in the 90s. He was like the child actor for a minute. But in general, I do feel like this movie feels like it was written by a kid themselves, which also offers a little bit of charm for the movie itself because it's like it feels like it's written by a kid for kids, especially when they become such fast friends. This vampire kid bumbles into Tony's bedroom and they're like, let's be best friends. And that is a little bit how kids operate. So that sort of tracks, but at the same time, you're like, okay, we're just gonna jump to that. We're just friends now. It's like this kid just won a screenplay contest, and they're just like, film it, no notes, don't change anything. We're gonna do what this 12-year-old said. I don't think it really sticks to the landing, like I said, in terms of the fact that vampires are actually pretty dangerous. So I don't know that they're so misunderstood or that I necessarily want to be on their side. I do think this would be a really fun watch for a 7-year-old or Jillian, but adult me
Yes. What
found
camp am I
it
in?
a bit challenging to get through, to be honest. I wanted to clutch a dead mouse and call for help. There's a scene where, like, okay, I'm like naming some things that I thought were kind of funny and cute. Like Rudolph's sister, who's a vampire, of course, the whole family's vampires, has a crush on Tony and gives him like a dead mouse that's like a good luck charm. And she tells him, like, hold it and call for help, whatever you need. Your wish will come true. And when he's in that tomb stuck, that's when he uses the dead mouse to get out of there. That was, again, a kid wrote this, right? It just feels so zany and out there.
It's
Like,
cracking me up.
where does this stuff come from?
No, you're right, because it's like we have rickery, we have a blimp, we have an amulet, we have like really crazy
We
stuff.
have golf. We're just playing golf for a bit of
Oh
the film
yeah,
too.
that was like a huge plot line too, because the dad, because they moved to Scotland because he's designing a golf course for the Lord. But I don't know, maybe the same 12-year-old who wrote that iconic scene in I Know What You Did Last Summer, he won that contest where Jennifer Love Hewitt's like walking around by herself screaming, "I'm ready for you," or something. Oh, they're like, "Come and get," I don't know what she said, but the director is like, "This is gonna ruin the movie." And hey, it worked, so I guess it worked. This is not an iconic film that's spawning any sequels, but yeah, it definitely has that zany, the kid wrote this flair. And I didn't think about that from that perspective of, yeah, these vampires are actually kind of sinister. I was rooting for him. I don't know why.
To end on a positive note, I think like one thing I found really charming about the movie as well were the vampire cows.
Oh yeah.
The family is for the most part feeding on this farmer's cows. And so every time the farmer checks in on his cattle, one more of them has red glowing eyes and he's like, okay, just like closes the door. And then finally he comes out and they're all like hanging upside down and have wings and they're flying around. And I thought that was so stupid and enjoyable. I really liked the vampire cows. I like Bunnicula, so you can expect me to enjoy the vampire cows.
Yeah. Another zany element.
Speaking of zany, we're going to move on to our comedy. And that is Mel Brooks's Dracula, Dead and Loving It, which came out in 1995. This is another one I feel like I ended up renting. So this is Mel Brooks' spoof of Dracula movies, and it stars the legendary Leslie Nielsen of Naked Gun fame and Airplane. He's starring as Dracula, and he's swapping scares for slapstick and can't keep a straight cape to save his undead life. We have a Renfield again. This is played by Peter MacNicol, who I know from the Ghostbusters movies, so he's always vaguely sinister, and he's so great. All the Renfields, by the way, like in all the Dracula movies I've ever seen, are amazing. Renfield's a great role. So this Renfield's also going baddie as his loyal servant, while Dr. Seward, played by Harvey Korman, and Van Helsing, played by Mel Brooks himself, try to solve the case of the bloodless ladies. Expect mirror gags, pratfalls, and enough garlic jokes to ward off an entire graveyard. Jillian, were you chuckling in your crypt or as silent as the grave watching this film?
Well, I watched it on YouTube for free.
Oh, okay.
So
Well,
I don't know.
I'm
Yeah,
glad
it
you had the
wasn't
free
the
hookups. Yeah, maybe it wasn't
yeah.
a little bootleg there, but
No, it was a little bootleg. I did it legal. I don't know what I don't know what channel. I'll have to share it in the Facebook group. I don't know. But I'm not embarrassed to say I laughed when Leslie slipped on bat poop and felt and somersaulted down the castle stairs. And that's the kind of like slapstick humor I wouldn't typically laugh at. But I don't know. For whatever reason, I found it really funny.
it's a classic guano goof.
And I also didn't know that this was a spoof on the 1931 movie because I watched this one right after The Little Vampire. I think seeing the original one first would have made this make more
I had the
sense.
exact same issue where I watched this first and I had forgot. Like, it's been so long since I've seen the 1931 Dracula that, like, I didn't get all of the references that they were making fun of the way that performer did their line. And I think there's a lot more to appreciate if you do watch
Yes.
the 1931 film. You get the spoofing way more. But you have to imagine too, like, it still should be funny by itself, and I don't think a lot of audiences going into this film in 1995 have the 1930s Dracula so
It's
fresh
true.
in their mind, you know what I mean? It still has to stand on its own 2 wings.
Very well said. I also love the miscommunication humor of that theater scene when Dracula asks the theater attendee to give Dr. Seward a message, and at the end, he warns her that she'll remember
That
nothing.
was a great sequence, that was one of the funnier ones for sure.
Yeah. And she does remember nothing literally and stares at the confused group before going back to the frustrated and confused Dracula. So, those are the 2 scenes that really made me laugh. I think it was just a little too zany for me to comprehend, as we just discussed, because of the lack of knowledge of the spoofing. But I thought it was fun. I was smiling throughout. I would give it 1 wing up.
So Little Vampire is 10 out of 10. This is 1 wing up from GIllian. I have to say, I mean, I grew up watching Mel Brooks movies. I love Mel Brooks movies, and I used to love this too because it was always on cable. But rewatching it, I think I laughed a couple times. Like it was very silly. It is fun to again just like have on. It's very cozy. I think it lives up to being cozy for sure
Yes.
because it's just very goofy. It's not scandalous. It's not racy. It's just silly, very slapsticky. I rarely found it very funny. One thing that always got me was, in terms of humor, though, was this is, I guess, after the Francis Ford Coppola's Dracula, where Gary Oldman is wearing that wig with like the 2 buns, really high hair. And so when Leslie Nielsen appears as Dracula, he's wearing that crazy hair, and then he takes it off like a hat. And this happens like a couple of times in the movie, but every time he takes off his wig like a hat, it got me every time. I love
Super
that
funny.
for some reason. Also, the really early CGI of Leslie Nielsen's face on a bat body tickled me as well.
Yeah, that added a lot of flair. I enjoyed that as well.
But overall, I kept thinking they found this funny when they were making it. For example, they spoofed the scene where like the villagers trying to give Renfield a cross to like, you'll need this, and he's like, I don't want it, and she's like, take it, and like they're going back and forth, and it's like, okay, already, just take it. Like it's not like the bit is over. Things like that went on a little bit too long for me. Although I did love in that scene, he says he's gonna be going to Dracula's castle, and he has to stay on schedule, and all the villagers are like, Dracula's castle, and the last guy's like, schedule.
I laughed at that too.
That was a really good line. It was so good that I'm repeating it for you in a worse way.
You nailed it.
It's a little too stuck in the Borscht Belt school of comedy for me, but very cute nonetheless. And did enjoy watching it, I have to say. All right, so we've found vampire films for children, for classics for everyone, and for the comedy lovers in our lives. But there's one genre that we really need to highlight, and that is romance, which to align to the 4 C's we're calling courtship. And what could we pick other than 2008's Twilight? If you haven't seen Twilight or read Twilight, it's about Bella, played by Kristen Stewart, who moves to Foggy Forks, Washington, with all of her awkward, angsty anxiety. And all of that is like a sweet nectar to eternal high schooler. And we have another vegetarian vampire in her hands, Edward Cullen, played by Robert Pattinson. These are legendary roles. They've been spoofed all over the place. I don't know. I just feel like these are, for our generation, very classic roles. We all know Twilight, right? Between biology class flirtations, I'm going to put that in quotes because they're very awkward, and family dinners with Edward's found vampire family, the romance gets both dreamy and deadly when tracker James crashes a vampire baseball game and decides Bella looks like a great snack for the 7th inning stretch. The Cullens rally, the bad vamp bites the dust, and Edward saves Bella from turning into a vampire herself. GIllian, did the Pacific Northwest vibes, moody stares, and knit brows have you swooning like Bella?
I think the experience of watching the movies is cozy, at least my experience, because I watched it with our niece in July and we ordered Domino's, and she just turned 12 in October. So I think she's 11 at the time, which maybe I don't know if that's appropriate viewing, but she already watched all of them anyway. And so she was just cheering on like rent another rent. I want to see them all. I'm not going to sleep, which I thought was really cute. And she was so excited for us to see it. So that is a cozy memory for me. But in terms of the content, the only cozy thing for me is Billy Burke, the actor who plays Bella's dad. I felt so bad for that man. Just not enough coffee and diner lunches to save him. He was just so desperate to help his daughter. He was always trying to support her, and he was extremely, extremely patient. That man never raised his voice once, I don't think. He was understanding of this hot romance to a degree, even asked her, like, "Oh, are you being safe?" Like, he was just trying to be there for her. And so I thought he was a cozy dad figure. But I bet he probably wishes he stayed in Stars Hollow and worked things out with Lorelai because Gilmore Girls fans might remember that he played love interest Alex in 2003. But yeah, he was the only non-problematic person in the movie series for me. So I have to say, I don't have a lot to say because I don't think you want to
You don't want to
uncork
stir
this
up the
potion.
Batcave of Twilight fans, I can tell.
Right. Or just like, I don't even have a kind word.
Wow.
Some of the vampire backstories were so upsetting to me. Like, I can't even relive them. I liked their houses and the sets, so they thought that was
I think
nice.
we can all agree that the setting is extremely cozy, like the cloudy and wet Pacific Northwest, a lamplit dinner at the Bloated Toad,
Yes.
a man sparkling amidst the ferns in the forest. These are all like very cozy scenes. And I also just love there's like a certain ASMR to this movie because it has the kind of Foley work of everyone's clothes constantly crinkling if anyone moves a muscle, which reminds me of a Hallmark Channel sound. It's just a very cozy artifact of the way this movie was made. And so I enjoyed all those aspects of it. I think that's very cozy. I am way more soft on Twilight than you are. I
Oh,
like Twilight. Look, I'm not going to overlook its flaws. Everything about this film feels uncanny. The behaviors are alien, the dialogue is overwrought, and the action is giving Disney Channel. But I eat this movie up. I remember when I watched this for the first time, like I had avoided this. I was like, I'm too cool for Twilight. I like didn't watch it until it came out on cable or something. This was like 2009 or 10 or something. I was flipping through channels and we like stumbled upon Twilight and we just decided to sit there and watch it. And I remember like finishing the movie and being like, that was pretty decent actually. I don't know why everyone's like saying it's so bad. And obviously there are diehard fans that made this movie such a huge phenomenon. And obviously the books already had their sequels, but like this movie was such a success that they made all the other books into movies as well. I don't know. I just like for all its weirdness and angstiness and everyone's so life or death about everything and it's so weird. It just works for me. I was like drawn into the drama. It had a certain amount of moodiness to it and I weirdly was rooting for Bella and Edward. I was like, okay, like I know that things go in a different direction as the movies go on. It gets like even
yeah.
weirder. But at least in this one, it's kind of in like a kind of normal, I have a crush on a guy at school sort of territory, but oops, he's a vampire. Even watching this, I was like, I've seen other Twilight movies, but they just didn't stick. So I'm like, I don't really remember what happens. But I know like the Jacob werewolf guy is also a thing as well. But I'm watching this, I'm like, how is Jacob ever gonna even enter this? They're way too into each other. It's like, how is he gonna get his paw in here? It's not gonna happen.
Oh, you're probably rattling the cages of those Jacob fans right now. But I agree with you. The first one I enjoyed. I'll say I was attentive throughout, so they hold your attention. But
Yeah.
I agree that the first one is probably the coziest and the easiest to follow because once you get into the pregnancy,
Yeah.
all bets are off.
We're only sticking with the first one. No vampire babies here tonight, this Halloween.
The hospital's closed.
Well, I think it's time to leave the cinema. But before we creep back to the crypt, let's see if this candle can outshine Edward's twinkling torso. I have the creepy candle review this episode, and I'm burning, appropriately, Interview with the Vampire by Serpent and Flame. They do a lot of tie-in candles for different TV shows, and this one was made for the official Anne Rice tie-in. I think specifically the TV show that's more recent. It offers a blend of red berries, jasmine, plum, and black musk, whatever that means. And the scent notes are sweet and fruity. And of course, it's inspired by Interview with the Vampire. It's like trying to capture the essence of a vampire series, or like it give you that kind of vampire vibe. Like you're gonna watch the TV show, or the movie, you're gonna burn this candle. I really do love it. Actually, I was surprised when I opened it. It has all this like meltable glitter, like that
Oh,
some
yeah, it's
candles
fun.
have, and so it had like glittery red, like little red glitter on it, like very like shiny blood. And as it's burning, like I think it's really settling into something nice. It has that muskiness, and I'm definitely getting the red berries. It's funny because like it's at the same time giving a rose petal lined crypt, and it's a romantic but also dark and musty. And so I think it's delivering it on its promise. And at the same time, that red berryness, if I put my mind in a different place, it's like, oh, this smells like Christmas. What?
Oh,
You know
you
what I
don't
mean?
want
It has
that.
like that nice dark berry scent to it that it feels almost Christmassy. This actually could work for Halloween or Christmas, depending on where your mind is. I do actually kind of like it. It's more versatile than I thought it would be. And in general, I just love that scent anyway. So I would give this one a wicked wick up.
Well, sparkles sound the most fun. I love a sparkle in a candle these days.
Yeah, this is
Little glitter.
definitely, yeah. Again, actually, it really could hold a candle to Edward's torso because they're both as shiny.
A great way to put a final note
No,
on
wait,
this vampire
Jillian.
talk.
We have a few final scream outs. We're going to first flap our bat wings for Kelsey M., our newest Patreon member. Thank you for your fantastic support.
Yes, I always love to see a new patron member fly into our tomb. It gives me an excuse to get up my daily steps and then walk to the mailbox.
Yes, you're part of our coven now. Thank you, Kelsey, for supporting our show. And thank you to all of our patrons and listeners for listening, of course, but also going the extra mile and supporting our show. We hope you all have a very spooky Halloween. You can keep up with all of our battiness on social media. We're on Instagram at All Things Cozy Podcast, also on Facebook at the same handle. We're on Blue Sky, or it should be called Black Skies, Dark, Stormy. That one's at All Things Cozy. Of course, you can follow Kelsey's terrifying example and support our show on Patreon. What's scarier than giving a little money to some podcasters this Halloween? Ooh, trick or treat. Give us some treats in the form of cash.
We have our little jack-o'-lantern buckets out.
Yeah, you can do that at patreon.com/allthingscozy. But listen, you'll get some treats too. You'll get stickers and magnets, and you'll join our cozy book club where we read some of the dustiest, coziest tomes you can imagine. And also, you can even join at the pillar level and get a cozy mug, which is scarily all about summer. The All Things Cozy mascot is swimming in a pool in a ducky floaty. Ooh, spooky. Anyway, yeah, that one's for our summer seasonal collection. But I do love our seasonal mugs, and this one is all about the summer season. But enough about that. We're back in fall. It's Halloween. Again, we hope you all have a very happy Halloween. And as always, stay cozy and stay spooky.